Shalom, Hebrews. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. I know it's been a little while in coming, but check this out, Hebrews. Man, a lot of Israelites don't have a clue of who's responsible for the Torah and Tanakh. You know, a lot of Israelites know that, Prophet Moses supposedly had wrote the Torah and so forth. But a lot of Israelites don't know how our history was constructed, and then they think that the Tanakh history is kind of like questionable and stuff. And what I want to try to explain or try to get you Israelites to understand is that we Israelites are responsible for Torah and Tanakh history. Well, the Tanakh is just the Torah in the prophets' sayings, and it's kind of crazy to think that the Most High communicated with the prophets and that their words was going to go away, or that his word spoken to them was going to go away. No, that's going to be recorded, and that's probably an elementary thing for the Creator to get done, is to have his word recorded among his messengers. The Israelites, were educated, literate, and how we knew how to write and so forth. And I'm going to show that we had scribes. Man, we had scribes throughout our whole history. Scribes chronicalizing our history, and at certain points that, man, we kept up with our history. And this the thing is that we abandoned our heritage to some Babylonian scribes, and they done went through our history like a science. Now, we abandoned covenant, us real Israelites, and just totally left our history alone during the Babylonian wars or the Babylonian era. And so I want to get that understood, is that our history fell into the hands of some Babylonian scribes. So if you find any inaccuracy or something that you think is wrong with Torah or Tanakh history, is because our history fell into their hands after it was completed by us. Now, that's why I'm comfortable with reading any version of our history, because once you basically know the story, meaning what happened to us, that, no matter what versions they come up with, you're going to understand. But I want to explain to the Israelites, who is responsible for Torah and Tanakh history. Did the Israelites chronicle their history, before destruction? And I want to show this, and I want to show how our enemies understand this. They understand that we chronicalized our history, man, before we was destroyed. And I'm going to explain this, Israelites. One time, me and I was incarcerated years ago up at Northeast Correctional Center, man. That's up by Johnson City. And I was in the high security annex, and I was in the hold. Now I was familiar with Israelite history, and I was pushing the Israelite, heritage then, but I wasn't as strong as I was now. But this is what I did. When I was in the hole, man, they had a loners program where the prison, can borrow books from the colleges and so forth. And since I had, a lot of whole time to do that, man, I had ordered some books. And then what book caught my attention, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't have any understanding about it. It's called the JIP, the J, the E, in the P and D documents. It's called the they call it the document hypotheses, but in terms we call it the JIP, the what they call the Jehovistic, but it's really the Yahwehist, in the Elohist, in the Deuteronomist, in the priestly schools that we had. It ain't just all documented in the Tanakh, but since our heritage fell over into some Babylonian scribes' hands, I didn't explain that in plenty of videos, that a lot of people think that the Israelites' history is wrote by them. So they, kind of like telling the truth on how our history was constructed and when, because, they got the whole world thinking that they are the Israelites. They got the whole world thinking that they the Israelites. So, they kind of slipping on this. But this is beneficial to us Israelites who want to feel comfortable with the Tanakh. We want to feel comfortable with the Tanakh. Did we create it? Did we chronicleize it? Did we put it in its order? Because, a lot of the books that the Israelites hold a value, those apocryphal books, those are created entirely by the Babylonian scribes, that we abandon our heritage to all books after 332 BC. Our enemies, you know what I'm saying, translated. And I'm going to show some of this history too. I'm going to pray that I can get some of this history and how it was done under the Ptolemaeus. Man, the Ptolemaeus sent for some Edomites, 70 of them, and then, brung them to Alexandria, and then they translated the Tanakh that Ezra had completed. See, Prophet Ezra is responsible for the Tanakh. He's responsible for the Tanakh. He's going to be the last major important scribe. The rest of the scribes, they kind of like killed during the Babylonian wars, but our history was already constructed then. They killed our scribes during the Babylonian wars, the main ones. Now, the ones that they didn't kill, they ran into Africa and we abandoned the covenant, meaning saying that we didn't want nothing to do with Israelite history. So we wasn't trying to chronicleize anything because we went into Africa, Sahara, by way of Egypt to worship the Egyptian religion. But here is the Babylonians killing the scribes. Killing the scribes, because if you kill the scribes, they keep the history. Then, man, that's the end of the history. Man, it stops. And then our enemies kind of like can start grafting their way in. But if you go to, this going to be the last of our scribes. You know what I'm saying? The ones that was captured got killed, and how Ezra being a prophet and Nehemiah and them being prophets, that, Almighty Yah was still able to get his message and, over to the people and still get it chronicalized. And Ezra gonna be the last scribe to chronicleize our history, and then that resulted in the Tanakh. And our enemies will tell you this. Now, if our enemies telling you this, and we know that the Israelites from the Babylonian captivity is the last true Israelites, man, before they was wiped out, and that the Tanakh was completed during that era, then the Tanakh is safe. Now, these different versions and so forth, we know about that. But if you understand the complete overall history, the versions and translations shouldn't get in your way. But here go some of the scribes being killed during the Babylonian wars, you know what I'm saying? Because like I say, they gonna get rid of the scribes because the scribes keep the history. And then I'm gonna go show how, our history was chronicalized at different points. And then I want to show that Ezra completed, you know what I'm saying, the history and so forth. But if you go to Jeremiah 52, and then we get down to we'll go to 24, 52, 24. And the captain of the guard took Sarah the chief priest, and Zebna the second priest, and the keepers of the doors. He took also out of the city Enoch, which had the charge of the army. The men of war, that's messed up. Enoch got control of the men of war. Man, that's how far down we had went. And 7 men of them that were near the king's person, which were found in the city, and the principal scribe. Look, you see, the principal scribe of the host, who mustered the people of the land. You know, so he gonna keep up with the history of the land and what the people's doing. And 70 men of the people of the land that were found in the midst of the city. So Nebuchadnezzar, then the captain of the guard, took them and brought them to the king of Babylon to Riblah, and the king of Babylon smote them and put them to death in Riblah in the land of Hamath. This, you see, Nebuchadnezzar put them to death ASAP. You know what I'm saying? Whereas the other one was took, but the people that's responsible for the history and keeping up with the history and documenting the history, they didn't spare them. They didn't spare them because our history was going over to the Amorites and the enemies. You see, our enemies that had got into our heritage after we exodus from Egypt. I explained this in plenty of videos, that how that they were scribes from Babylon, got a connection to the scribes from Babylon from Cyprus, and that how when we lost, got kicked out of our heritage, that our heritage failed to them, and that man, that's a bad thing. And this where the Babylonian scribes was from, Cyprus. They was from Cyprus, and then how that they was in our heritage, and they were scribes too, and that how that they wasn't put to death, and then how that our history transitioned over to them after the exiles were destroyed. And we have the exiles from Babylon's history. The exiles gonna be the ones that Nebuchadnezzar took away when he killed the scribes, our main important scribes. If you kill the scribes and the scribes is killed, then man, it's kind of like over with for your history. It's over with for your history, because it's important that you have recorders of the history and so forth. So a lot went on with the Israelite history, and it's keeping and so forth. Alright, so we see that the king of Babylon put the scribes to death. You know what I'm saying? The ones, but man, he gonna put them to death, because our enemies real slick. They was taking our heritage. Our heritage, man, was being taken from us and stuff, and it was being taken violently from us because we was doing Egyptian religion, you know what I'm saying, on the promised land, and we wasn't supposed to. Alright, and then what's so cold, our heritage fell into the hands of the Babylonian scribes that keep Babylon's God's history. Man, I'm talking about responsible for Babylon's God's history, man. Our heritage fell into their hand, and they was Amorites. And the Amorites got in our heritage up on Exodus when we made them carriers of the water for the temple and so forth. That's the worst thing we could have ever did, because those folks was around where our sensitive documents and so forth would be at. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna see if I can find that. That's gonna be in Joshua. That might be in Judges, but I think it's in Joshua, them old Gabonites, where the Gabonites tricked us. Yeah, see, the Gabonites tricked us, and we didn't put them to sleep with the other Amorites, and these were scribes and people, you know what I'm saying, from the kindred from the folks from Babylon that kept Babylon's God's history. That's professional scribes and writers that have been through a few civilizations, the Akkadian, the Sumerian, the Assyrian, and Babylonian. So they know how to write good and chronicleize history, and when a nation fall up under their control, man, they know how to distort your information and so forth. And it come to pass when all the kings, alright, so and so forth, and they gathered on this side, and when the inhabitants of Gabon heard that Joshua had, you know what I'm saying, to whoop the other folks, that they worked willingly and went and made as if they had been ambassadors, and took old sackcloth and up on their asses, and wine bottles and rent bottles and old shoes and cloths. So what the Amorites did was they tricked us, man. When we come out of Exodus, Egypt, and then how they got in our heritage is that they tricked us, man. They played like they was from somewhere else when they was close. We made a promise to them in Almighty Yah's name, and then they was Amorites. And then the Amorites, the Sepharvims from Cyprus, are scribes. They the same people. and we let them in our heritage. So, you know, whenever you find that the priests wasn't doing right, or that the priests was wicked and doing wrong, it's because them folks was in our heritage, and they gonna be influencing those priests, putting their daughters on them, doing all kind of stuff to them. All right. And old shoes, and clotted their feet in old garments, and up on them, and all the bread of their provisions was dry and moldy. And they went to Joshua unto the camp of Gilgal, and said unto him, and to the men of Israel, we be come from a far country, now therefore make ye league with us. And we made a league with them, and they was the peoples we was supposed to destroy. They always trick us like that. They was the peoples we was supposed to destroy, and then we made a league with them. Well, we made a league with them, look. And the princes said unto them, let them live, but let them be hewers of wood and drawers of water unto all the congregation. And the princes had promised them. See, so we made a promise for them to be in all our congregations and all our holy buildings where our writings would be at. And Joshua called for them, and he spake unto them, saying, wherefore have ye beguiled us, saying, we are very far from you, when ye dwell among us. Now therefore ye are cursed, and there ye shall none be freed from being bondmen and hewers of wood and drawers of water for the house of Yah. That's awful. That's awful when he did that. Our books in there. Our books gonna be in there. And then they gonna get it after the Greeks destroyed the exiles. The Ezra and them, you know what I'm saying, books fell into the enemy's hand, but these folks were still around. And in the book of Ezra, they wanted to even build the temple with us and get in with us. And then that would have really throw things off. But Ezra was smart enough to tell them folks no, and how he sealed the names and sealed the history and so forth. And he chroniclized the history. And then that's why we got the Tanakh today. But if you look, see how we said that those folks would be drawers of water for the house of Yah. That's our destruction. Especially because we didn't defeat and destroy the Amorite tribes, the Canaanite tribes. So, you know, later on when we get ran out the land for doing Egyptian religion, and we didn't take no books with us, that they gon' get our history and it's gonna fall into their hand. That's why come I got videos saying that we abandon our heritage to some Babylonian scribes. Now let's show that these are Amorites, man. If you go to I think it's 2 Samuel 21. Let's see what 2 Samuel 21 says. 2 Samuel 21. Because I ain't been picking this book up so long, I usually turn straight to the pages. Alright. And the king called the Gabonites and said unto them, Now the Gabonites were not of the children of Israel, but of the remain of the Amorites. See, the Amorites got in our heritage, and we know that the Amorites are the founders of Babylon in its God's history and so forth. The Sephardims from Sipper. That's why come America got an identical Babylonian system that's going, even down to the naming of the streets, to judges, lawyers, the whole administrative structure of how America functioned is identical to us was in Sipper, and what the Amorite Sephardims created that got our heritage. Remember, Israelites, these folks was moved to our land in 722 BC when we was on Egyptian religion, and they was in the northern parts. But you see, they're Amorites. They're Amorites, and that's not good because we made them overseers and drawers of waters of the house of Almighty Yah. So when as we ran off, that they would have everything. They would have everything. But we chronicleize our history, and whenever you find the priests did this or the priests was wicked and evil, it's cause them folks hanging around. Alright, now let's go back again. Who is responsible for Torah and Tanakh history? Did the Israelites chronicle their history before destruction? Alright, now let's go look at a little history what our enemies got. Man, this is, you know what I'm saying? Like I say, man, I read the Jip book mean the Jip book is JEPD is what it's called. And then, they had different peoples throughout history to try to explain when we put our history together and trying to pin down exactly at what point that it was did. And then they have people that, that's in controversy with what these folks come up with, but it's basically the same history. They just try to reword it as time going. I believe as we wake up, that they try to revise ancient Israelite history that we can see that we're responsible for. All right, and then look here, man. It says, all right, look the all right, and post was all right. It says that the Pentateuch is a completion. It, it, it is a compilation of four originally independent documents. The the Yahwehs. It's really the Yahwehs. And now this is what we be claiming. So many Yah worshippers. Now all the Israelites are Yah worshippers. And the Yah worshippers was the strongest. The strongest in Tanakh history and put the most work in with documenting our history. The Yah worshippers did. But you know how they substitute the J for the Y and stuff. And we know it wasn't no J in the Hebrew alphabet. Look. Independent documents, the Jaw is J and the Elu is E, compilations of, let me see, and the Deuteronomy, all right, the Deuteronomies and the priestly sources. The first of these, the J, was dated to the Solomon period in 950 BC. We totally in the land. We in the land in 950 BCE. We in the land, and the land is under our control because King David had just got control and did the thing to our enemies. So we got control of the promised land in 950 BC. So they saying that the J, which is gonna be the oldest, ones, was done during them times. It's really the Yahwehs. And sure enough, Almighty Yah followers were strong during then because King David was a Yahwehist, a Yah follower, and he led the way being a Yah follower. Look, see the first of these, J, was dated to the Solomon period, 950 BC. E was dated somewhat later in the 9th century BCE, but it's still under our control because we still in the land. We hadn't got ran out to 588 BC, so it's still in our control. And then the exiles come back, and that's when Ezra created the Tanakh. He got all the histories together and then created the Tanakh because we still got control of the land and we still there. And then, Ezra, Nehemiah, Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi show that the exiles sinned, and then the Greeks come in, and then that what, got us out of our history right there, and it fell all the way into the enemy's hand. But it was first completed. The Tanakh was completed under our control. Look, all right. E was dated somewhat later in the 9th century BCE, and D was dated just before the reign of King Josiah. Oh man, that's great. That's great. Just before the King Josiah. So the Deuteronomy documents were completed during King Josiah's time, just before his reign. You know what I'm saying? That's when the priests kind of like held control, and they was in control while he was a baby and so forth. So they probably did a bunch of writing and got everything together then, knowing that he was a prophecy king. So it's not a coincidence that during the good king's time is when we had a lot of good history chronicalized and so forth. Look, all right, E was dated somewhat later in the 9th century BCE, and D was dated just before the reign of King Josiah in the 7th or 8th century. Finally, P was generally dated to the time of Ezra in the 5th century. So E is going to be the last one. The source would have been joined together at various points in time by a series of scribes. They call them redactors and so forth. You know what I'm saying? Look, All right, the revisionist author argued that J was to be dated no earlier than the time of the Babylonian captivity, still under our control. All right, you know what I'm saying? A lot of them, you know what I'm saying? So they try to mix it all up. Well, it was created then, it was created then, but it was all created under our control. If you look and see, you know what I'm saying? It was all created on. It was all created under our control. The Tanakh was in the Torah, all created under our control. You know what I'm saying? And our enemies show this. And if you've been rolling with the Israelite Brotherhood, you know that I proved that our history in basically during the Babylonian Wars or a little after when the exiles come back and how that they was destroyed. So I already proved that we had control of the land then. So now you seeing that the Tanakh was completed and constructed under our control as well as the Torah under our control. And our enemies will tell you this. Our enemies will tell you this. They gonna tell you this. Look. Alright. Look. From this we may infer that the written law was then known and to Ezra is usually attributed to credit of compiling the books of the Old Testament as far as completed in his day, to which he added his own writings. Who first compiled the Old Testament? You know what I'm saying? That's the Tanakh. Alright, the man they try to say that King Hezekiah got started on him with the priests and so forth. And then this is what I narrowed down dealing with Hezekiah. And see, it was during the reign of Hezekiah of Judah in the 8th century that historians believe that will become the Old Testament began to take form. And it kind of makes sense, but because if you look at Second Chronicles, I'm gonna show you this, right? If you look at Second Chronicles, if you look at Second Chronicles, you can see that he telling the peoples, some of them men to get their genealogy. I mean, he taking genealogy of the males and so forth and so forth. So you know they gonna write the history. Man, this is Chronicles 31, and besides the genealogy of the males from 3 years old and upward, even unto everyone that entered into the house of the Elohim his daily portion for their service and their charge according to their course, both to the genealogy of the priests by the house of their fathers and the Levites from 20 years old. So into the genealogy of all the little ones and their wives. So, you know, he was keeping the genealogy of the priests and so forth. So you know they gonna have to do the history if they keeping the genealogy of the people and talking about who kin to him and who kin to who, and then what happened during that time, and you know what I'm saying. I mean, they writing all that down. They writing all that down. So you know we got scribes too, and then let me show you Israelites some of the scribes. You know what I'm saying, that we had scribes at all times. So then if you go to Samuel 8, let's see, 2 Samuel. 2 Samuel 8:16. Let's see what that say. 2 Samuel 8:16. Alright. Already says, and Joab the son of Zerah was over the host, and Jehoshaphat the son of Elul was a recorder. So they recording the history. Alright. And Zadok the son of Atub and Emelish the son of Abithar were the priests, and Sir was the scribe. See, we got scribes. I mean, we got scribes. Alright, man, let's go to, let me see, First Chronicles. First Chronicles, let's see, First Chronicles 8:15. Let's see what it say. First Chronicles. First Chronicles. First Chronicles 18:15. Alright. Let's see, First Chronicles 18:15. 12, 16, 18, 15. And Joab the son of Zerah was over the host, and Jehoshaphat the son of Elur was recorder, and Zadok the son of Atub, and Amalish the son of Abiathar were the priests, and Shavshah was scribe. See, Shavshah was scribes. So we got scribes keeping up with the history. We ain't got no problem with keeping up with our history, and then knowing that Almighty Yah gonna want us to keep up with our history, being that He said that we was gonna break the covenant. So we gonna have to know what we did to break the covenant. We're gonna have to know what we did to break the covenant, and that's why come our history is recorded, because that shows you that Almighty Yah is real. Because He had our history recorded by our scribes, and He knew we was gonna break the covenant, so our history had to be recorded, and it had to be recorded in detail. Look, all right, First Kings 4:3, and Elorpha and Aiah the sons of Shisha, scribes. Look, man, all kind of scribes, and Jehoshaphat son of Elur the recorder. All right, so we got scribes. And then let's go to 2 Kings 2:12. 12:10. So we got scribes now. We ain't got no problem with keeping our history. And then I'm going to show Almighty Yah said we was going to break covenant. And Prophet Moses said we was going to break covenant. So you know we going to have some scribes. You know we're going to have some scribes to keep our history. And then I just proved that we are responsible for our history, and it was recorded during the time that we was on the land. Now our books fell into others' hands, and that's the discrepancy in the mistranslations and so forth. But if you know the overall history of how we broke the covenant, then you can get around that. It don't mean nothing. A translation won't mean nothing, because you know what happened. All right, 12:10. All right, 12:10. All right, and it was so when they saw that there was so much money in the chest that the king's scribe and the high priest come up, and they put up the bags and told the money that was found in the house. So scribes is there, man. We ain't got no problem with no scribes, man. Let's go to Second Chronicles 24:11. Second Chronicles 24:11. And let's see what it says. And I could just keep reading on about scribes. Alright. 24:11. Now it come to pass that at what time the chest was brought into the king's office by the hand of the Levites. And when they saw that there was much money, the king's scribes and the high priest's officers came and emptied the chest and took it and carried it to its place again. This did they day by day and gathered money in abundance. All right, and then let's go to Jeremiah 36. It's going to be dealing with Baruch. But Baruch the scribe, oh man, you know what I'm saying? He was something serious. All right, I almost turned right to it. All right, 36:20, 26. All right. But the king commanded Jamil, the son of Hamalich, and Sir, and Azariel, and Shemael, and Abdiel to take Baruch the scribe and Jeremiah the prophet, but the Elohim hid them. So we got scribes throughout our history. You know what I'm saying? We got scribes everywhere. All right, so then let's go to 2 Kings 18:18. 18:18. That'd be 2 Kings. 2 Kings 18:18. I almost turned it. 18:18. And when they had called the king, there came out to them Eliakim, the son of Hilkiah, which was over the household, and Shebna the scribe, and that was a serious scribe there, and Joash the son of Asaph the recorder. So we got scribes. All our movements is being recorded, and them gonna be the main scribes that have scribes up under them. They gonna be like reporters. They gonna be everywhere, recording everything we do, and then that's how you got our sins recorded in detail, and everybody's sins of what they see. Cause we had scribes everywhere running around. All right, First Chronicles 20. All right, I almost turned to a 27. I just about did. 27:32. 27:32. All right. Also, Jonathan David's uncle was a counselor, a wise man, and a scribe. Look, so King David's and also David's uncle was a counselor, a wise man, and a scribe. And Joel, the son of Haman, was the king's son. Look, so he was a scribe. You know what I'm saying? David, and also Jonathan, David's uncle, was a counselor, a wise man, and a scribe. So he keeping up with the history too. Everything we do, and that's what scribes did. Kept up with the history. Kept up with what we was doing. You know what I'm saying? So let's go to Second Chronicles. Second Chronicles. Let's go to Second Chronicles. Second Chronicles. Let's go to Second Chronicles 34. 34:18. See what it says. Now I'm showing we got scribes. We got some scribes. 34:18. Second Chronicles 34:18. Alright. And Shaphan the scribe told the king, saying, Hezekiah the priest had given me a book, and Shaphan read it before the king. See, we was literate, man. We can read, we can write, and we can keep up with our history. So, we chronicalized our history at different points under King Solomon, under King Hezekiah, just before King Josiah get into his role as king, and then Ezra completed it all. So, you shouldn't have no problem with accepting the Tanakh as our history and us writing it, and Torah too, and that we wrote the Torah too at different points. All right, so now let's go to Ezra. Ezra 7:6, and see what it say. I'm turning right there. All right, man, we're getting warmed up. All right, and there went up from Babylon, and he was a ready scribe in the law. See, and this went up from Babylon. And this went up from Babylon, and he was a ready scribe in the law of Moses. So he was ready to get back and put our history in order and get it right. You know what I'm saying? He was a ready scribe. You know what I'm saying? He was ready. A ready scribe in the law of Moses, which the Elohim Yah of Israel had given. And the king granted him all his requests according to the hand of the Elohim, his Yah, upon him. So Ezra was a ready scribe, ready to get to it when he come back from Babylon, and he completed our whole history, chronicalized it all together, and that's why come we got the Tanakh today. That's how we got the Tanakh, and he even responsible for Chronicles, the Chronicle writings. Now let's go to Nehemiah and see what this say. You know what I'm saying? Malachi gonna be the last prophet. It's over with. But these prophets put our history in order so we can understand it today. And it's what we got today. All right, now let's read this. And all the people gathered themselves together as one man in the street that were before the water gate, and they spoke unto Ezra the scribe to bring the book of the law of Moses, which the Elohim had commanded him. And Ezra the priest brought the law before the congregation, both men and women, and all that could hear with understanding, upon the 1st and 7th month. And he read therein before the street that was before the water gate, from the morning until midday, before the men. Many read the whole Torah to him, and the women, that they could understand, and the ears of all the people were attentive unto the book of the law. And Ezra the scribe stood upon the pulpit of wood which they had made for the purpose, and beside him stood Mathaniah and Shema and Ananiah and Urijah and Halakah and Mishnah in his right hand, and on his left hand Pedaiah and Mishnah and Malachi and Hisham. So the scribes, you know what I'm saying? Men, the scribes, our scribes constructed our history, and Ezra gonna be the last one, men, to put it together. And our enemy is gonna tell you this. What did Ezra accomplish in the Bible? Ezra flourished in front of the Babylonian Jerusalem religious leader, try to say, from exile, who reconstructed the Jewish community on the basis of the Torah and the regular of the 5 books. Let me see. When were the books of the Old Testament compiled? In the current form, the collection of the Old Testament was compiled by the century. However, this individual, let's see, that's one of them folks. Let me see, why was, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, because the Greeks got it, and then they took the skeptic in, and then, you know, the Old Testament come out. All right, what is the difference between what the Bible? Who? Let me see. The people seriously. Nehemiah is a project manager for the rebuilding of the walls of Jerusalem. But Ezra gonna get our history together. You know what I'm saying? And then, you know, we responsible for the Tanakh. If you research the little Jep schools, the Yahweh's and the priestly documents and so forth, and the Deuteronomy documents, you'll see. Let me show that Almighty Yah said that we was gonna break covenant, so you will know that we had to have some scribes recording our history if we gonna know what we did later on, cause it'll be messed up for us to break covenant, and then not know what we did in captivity. How in the world could we ask for forgiveness if we don't know what we did? So Almighty Yah, with his millions of billions of years of technology, had this elementary thing done. You know, had this elementary thing done, had our scribes record our history. So don't let nobody trick you when they tell you that the Tanakh ain't no good and so forth. We didn't write it. We didn't write the Tanakh and all that old mess. Yes, we did. It just fell into our enemy's hand. All right. Now, I turn right to this. Now, this something I turn right to. And Elohim said unto Moses, this is Deuteronomy 30:16. Now I turned right to this when I opened the book up. And the Elohim said unto Moses, behold, thou shalt sleep with thy fathers, and this people will rise up, go a whoring after the gods of the strangers of the land, whether they go to be among them, and will forsake me and break my covenant which I have made with them. Then my anger shall be kindled against them in that day, and I will forsake them, and I will hide my face from them, and they shall be devoured, and many evils and troubles shall befall them, so that they shall say in that day, are not all these evils come upon us because our Yah is not with us? And we wasn't going to know that our Yah wasn't with us unless we had some recorded history that explained what happened to us and why we broke covenant. All right, this Moses. For I know that after my death ye will utterly corrupt yourselves and turn aside from the way which I have commanded you, and evil shall befall you in the latter days, because you do evil in the sight of the Elohim to provoke him to anger through the works of your hands. And that's what our ancestors did. And we got driven off the land for that. We got driven off the land for that. Now this is the next topic that I want to go into, Israelites. Why come your boy Edom was a problem in Tanakh history? Now Edom was a problem in Tanakh history. I'm talking about a serious problem. He was a problem in Tanakh history. Edom tried to defeat Prophet Abraham's Edom tried to defeat Prophet Abraham's blessings by going into the Canaanite tribes that grieved our mother and father, Isaac and Rebecca. You know what I'm saying? They grieved them when Edom went into them. And then I got history to show that throughout the whole Tanakh, Edom is a problem. Hated. And even Almighty Yah said that he hated Edom. But then when you get to the New Testament, Edom name is changed to Idoma, and he's loved in the New Testament. He's loved in the New Testament. And then how did that's wrong? Because in the Old Testament, up under Almighty Yah's word, Edom was hated and rejected. But in the New Testament, Edom is loved and allowed to follow this demigod, who we know that it's not, real, and that Almighty Yah ain't send no demigod. I'm going to probably make another video, man, about this subject, Israelites, and I'm going to close this video up. All praise be to Almighty Yah And I pray that you Israelites got some understanding about how we constructed our history and so forth. That I'm going to make a separate video for this right here. Shalom, Hebrews, and much love from the Israelite Brotherhood. We Israelites are responsible for Tanakh history. And then I'm going to make a video, man, about this too. Man, this other subject that I want to talk about is like, I want to prove again how that, the, the New World Order versus prophecies. I mean, I'm going to do them two videos. New World Order versus Israelite prophecies. Who gonna win? Because I want to show that the people's coming back in 1948, the Jewish state coming back in 1948 is not the representation of the Israelites and how they trying to trick prophecy and try to trick everybody to making them think that the prophecies and come to pass when they ain't. I'm going to go into that and I'm going to make two videos, Alright, Israelites, much love from the Israelite Brotherhood, and I pray that everybody is doing well. Shalom.